Now joined by Chris Yelland, who is an energy expert. A very good afternoon to you, Chris. Before we even get to the problems with the processes of how the people in Soweto are now battling to find this process, why do these meters have to be updated in the first place?
Yeah, it's a technical issue. It is similar in principle to the year 2000 problem. You may remember that the software of many products and services and websites and online services could not handle the rollover from 1999 to the year 2000 as a result of, I think, poor software programming. Now, in the case of these prepayment meters, there is a similar rollover issue related to the number of tokens that are being vended. And at a certain point, they've reached a limit, and there needs to be a rollover of a register. And the software hasn't catered for this rollover properly. So essentially, it's a software glitch, you might call it, in the prepayment meter. And they need to update the software with new software that attends to this rollover problem. I can't go into the bits and the bytes details of the software issue, but needless to say, if a meter has not been updated by the 24th, which is Sunday, that meter will no longer be able to vend electricity. And so it has to be, the update has to be done before the 24th. After the 24th, you can't update it anymore. It will stop vending electricity. So this is the crisis that is facing electricity customers with prepayment meters that haven't updated. They need to update fast.
And fast indeed. However, those queues that we've been seeing in Soweto as well are going pretty slow. Lots of complaints about the poor service as well. A limited number of staff to be able to help those residents as well who are trying to make sure that they make it in time for the Sunday deadline. What could Eskom have done better to ensure that this doesn't go down this way, that the process is a little bit more smooth?
Yeah, look, no doubt there are logistical issues at this late stage. In South Africa, we have a habit of waiting until the last moment before we get off our backsides and do something. And this is the case here. Now, Eskom are basically also saying that, you don't need to stand in a queue. All you need to do is go to an authorized vendor of electricity and buy another token for electricity now, before the deadline expires. You will be able to buy this token, but you will also be issued with the token number that you have to enter in the meter in order to update the software. So Eskom's message is simple. You don't have to queue. Just go buy some electricity. You'll get the tokens necessary, update your meter, and away you go. If you experience some problems in doing this update, then you will either have to contact Eskom by standing in the queue, or else there are various platforms that have been set up which enable you to report the problem to Eskom without having to stand in the queue. So that was really the message coming from the minister today.
Yeah, well, it sounds quite simple to do, to be able to check whether, your meter has been updated or not. Is the message not coming through to the residents as well? Because if it was really that simple, that all they need to do is, just go and buy and then check, and then that will tell them if their meter is updated or not. Is the message not properly sent to those residents as well?
I think the messages have been sent for many, many months now by Eskom, but I want to explain the real problem. The real problem is that Eskom have about 2.1 million prepayment meter customers who do not buy electricity anymore. They have either bypassed their meter, or they have interfered with it, tampered with it, or in other way are avoiding buying electricity by buying from what are known as ghost vending systems. These are people, criminals, who are selling electricity, bypassing the system and keeping the money for themselves and not giving it to Eskom. Now, this 2.1 million is the big problem, because Eskom, I think, have mentioned that they have about 6 million prepayment meters. So about 1/3 of these are meters that are either not working, damaged, bypassed, tampered with, or purchasing electricity illegally. You know that Soweto has a long, long history of not paying for electricity. In fact, something like 80 to 85% of all the electricity delivered in the city of Soweto is not paid for. The so-called non-technical losses, which is theft and non-payment, amount to about 85%. So that is the real problem. Now, these people, who have been avoiding payment all these years, now suddenly are faced with the fact that unless they go out and buy electricity, effectively registering their system with Eskom again, they're going to be cut off, and they're not going to have electricity from the 24th. So Eskom's message is, and the minister conveyed this message, is that guys, own up, go and buy some electricity for the first time in many months or years, and get this thing regularized. You need to re-regularize your arrangement with Eskom. Now, of course, this is not going to be very popular with those people who've been bypassing or otherwise avoiding paying for electricity for years. So I just want to explain what is really going on here. And yes, I think on the 24th, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people out there.
Yeah, and Chris, while Soweto obviously has had that problem of non-payment for a very long time, that's been well documented as well. Those queues that we're seeing on our screens right now are of people who are trying to, abide by the system and do right as well. But clearly, also the help there is a little bit limited in terms of the staff that's on the ground there. But how expensive are they to replace? You're mentioning 6 million prepaid meters, 2.1 of them having a bit of problems. How expensive will this be to replace all these meters?
Well, you see, if your meter is just faulty, it will be replaced by Eskom as part of its normal maintenance. But many of these meters are not just faulty. They have been tampered with illegally and are either broken as a result of the tampering or bypassed. So Eskom, first of all, if you have tampered with a meter and damaged it, you're going to have to pay for a new meter. Now, that can cost you a couple of $1,000. Secondly, Eskom have a penalty for tampering. If they find out you have been avoiding payment and tampering with your meter, they can charge you a tamper penalty of 6,000 Rand for a first tamper offense. For a second tamper offense or a third, it goes up even more. So it's a sort of increasing scale. So on the one hand, Eskom are basically, their message is, if you want to sort this matter out, you don't have to stand in the queue. Just go and buy some electricity and try and load it into your meter. If you have a problem, there are channels where you can log on and lodge the issue with Eskom, who will investigate further. But this is bringing out 2 million customers out of the woodwork who have not been paying for electricity. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, more problems indeed, as we are paying close attention to that story and watching those cues on our screen as well. Chris, thank you so much for your insights this afternoon. Do stay with the channel because we have more news and views coming up after this break.